to unite people. Oh, well. So the point is, people are looking more at Bernie Sanders and making memes than understanding what really just went on there in the deeper sense of the inauguration, which is why I thought I had to bring this out for your consideration.
If they hadn't stolen the primary again, then Bernie might have actually won the election. They wouldn't even have had to steal it. I'm not saying he definitely would have won. I'm just saying they wouldn't have had nearly as much of a need to definitely steal it. Like, how about the YouTube purges? All those dislikes, tens of thousands of dislikes on every Biden inauguration video. And then YouTube had a glitch where they accidentally deleted the dislikes. Kind of like the glitch where when the Lincoln Project guy who was propositioning young men, when that story broke, you couldn't look up the Lincoln Project. By the way, little tangent, and then I'll shut up. Every time I say I'm going to be quiet, I end up talking too much. But a little tangent, but I find the timing really interesting. Did you know that the head of the Lincoln Project, ran afoul of Benjamin Netanyahu just hours or a day before that the story about him propositioning young men broke? Not saying there's a coincidence, that there's a connection. I'm just saying the timing is suspect.
Yeah, I understand he had a real eye on Barron. I mean, he thinks Barron's just totally sexy, but that just could be rumor gossip, and I don't want to go there. But Barron is kind of getting kind of tall and good looking, isn't he? He's breaking a lot of hearts. But be that as it may, stay away from Bibi. I mean, this guy. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Oh, and he owns all the most of the major Israeli papers. That's what a lot of the indictments that he's been facing for the past few years. I've been covering that off and on. He's got several fraud and corruption indictments. One of my favorites is when his lawyers advised he and his wife to destroy their cell phones. That's never a good sign when your lawyer says you need to destroy your cell phone right now. But yeah, no, part of one of the indictments is based on more pay for play, where he was using his position to hurt any news source that didn't give him favorable coverage. And like I said, since multiple people stepped down from Facebook and MSNBC to work for Biden administration, it's going to be different here, though. It's not going to be like that here.
Well, I'll tell you what, for what it's worth, when my wife and I were there in Israel, we stayed at the Jerusalem Hotel, which is really the classiest place in all of Jerusalem. And all you see on TV, of course, is there's 3 major government channels, right? And if they know you're an American, the Jerusalem Hotel they'll have it dubbed into English for you all automatically in your room. So we turn on, I think, and maybe you see cable TV, maybe you can get ESPN or something, but no, just 3 government-run channels. So I flipped them, and oh my good night! I saw on every channel, at least in the hour that I kind of watched, there was no Leave It to Beaver reruns or nothing. It was just the most dry, stupid commentary you've ever seen. Government, it was just bad TV. But every 20 minutes they would break, and here's Donald Trump on TV pitching. Of course, they were dubbing it in Israeli, but in English it was him talking. I support my good friend Benjamin Netanyahu, and all of how honorable and he is. I saw no less in about 2 hours of watching about 6 Donald Trump ads, different ones, pitching his good buddy for re-election, Benjamin Netanyahu, because it was election cycle. that year, 2014. We were there in the spring of 2014. And so I'm watching this, and my wife and I go down to the they have a really nice buffet and banquet, and I'm talking to our Israeli tour guide at the time, and we struck up a lot of the Israelis speak English pretty well. And so when they find out you're from America, hey, you know Donald Trump? Yeah, it was Donald Trump. And because they saw these commercials, but they liked Donald Trump, but they thought, what is he doing endorsing this creepo who's not going to win? Everybody said the polling shows him with an abysmal 20% approval rating, and there's no way that a snowball would have a better chance than him. It was going to be
danced by a landslide, right?
Yeah.
But you're dealing with Bibi, so what was it Stalin said? It doesn't matter who votes what. It matters who counts the votes.
Especially if you own ES&S, the software that counts the votes. I mean,
Yup. Yeah. So Intel, the whole Intel inside. You mean IDF and Mossad, because all Intel chips are made in Israel. Like a lot of our computer parts are made in either Israel or China. And by the way, the Sino-Israeli relationships that are warming up, that scares me, because that's going to make the U.S. right now is too big to fail. You know how we keep bailing out these banks and companies because they're too big to fail? And that's what China is doing to us for now. But when they decide, hey, why don't we make a pact with Israel instead? And then Saudi goes, Israel and China are joining forces. Let's go ahead and cancel the petrodollar. Then what happens? Well, considering the fact that the majority of the Federal Reserve notes are owned by China, our money is worth less than the paper it's printed on. Boom. Just like that, we're Zimbabwe.
And what is this new stimulus package? Trillions now. And if you, again, look at all of that pork that's going everywhere else but what it should be. I mean, put that into the small business communities. Don't send it out to Israel. Don't send it out to this and this and this and this. I mean, it's insane, because and then you look at the stimulus package again. There's language there that it's going to be tied to the vaccination. You want your stimulus check of $2,500 or whatever it's going to be, only after you're vaccinated. It's bribing for the vaccination. Wow. On and on it goes. Wow.
Well, that reminds me, there's several states where you can't even get emergency aid. Texas, I think, is one of them. You can't get emergency aid after a natural disaster unless you sign an anti-BDS clause. There's states where they won't allow you to be a teacher unless you promise to never boycott or protest Israel. Like, what the hey? Now, imagine if they said, listen, I'm going to give you this job, but you've got to promise to never protest against anything the U.S. does. That would be unconstitutional, right? So then why is it okay for us to do that for a foreign country that gives away and sells our secrets to our enemies like China, and has been doing so for years? Once again, this is not conspiracy theory stuff. This has been going on for decades. Yeah.
Did you notice that one of the pardons that Trump did in November was to Jonathan Pollard? I mean, total full pardon. And Pollard jumped the plane, got right onto Tel Aviv, and was given a hero's welcome in Tel Aviv. Did you catch that one?
I did not hear about that, but it doesn't surprise me. Arnon Milchan showed up at the Oscars. You know what I'm saying? Like Israeli spy who stole American secrets and then gave them away to a foreign country, and should be on the FBI's most wanted list. But somehow he ended up at the Oscars and just hung out. Yeah. Ain't that America?
I don't know. It's I'm gonna pull this up here real quick and yeah, there's I'm looking here at the Star Tribune, National Public Radio. Even I had a great picture on Jonathan Pollard, and the video of him now going into his synagogue in Halacha, just absolutely, worshiping Donald Trump. That here's what the National Public Radio's article is. There's Jonathan Pollard, Cold War spy who spent 30 years in U.S. prison, arrives in Israel. Dateline December 30th, 2020. Convicted spy Jonathan Pollard left with his lawyer, Elliot Lauer, leaves federal court in New York following a 2016 hearing. The former U.S. Navy analyst who spent 3 decades in prison after pleading guilty to spying for Israel has arrived in Israel a free man a month after the Justice Department allowed his parole to expire. Unbelievable. Pollard and his wife Esther, good name, right? Pollard and his wife Esther landed early Wednesday at Ben Gurion Airport near Tel Aviv aboard a private jet owned by who? Do you want to guess who owns the private jet? Sheldon Adelson.
I was going to say the guy from Vegas. Yep.
Sheldon Adelson, a major backer of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu. The couple steps off the plane.
And leading the forefront of surveillance tech.
Yep. The couple stepped off the plane, got on their knees, and kissed the tarmac, a religious Jewish custom upon arrival to the Holy Land. Netanyahu met the Pollards at the airport, greeting them with the traditional Jewish blessing, Shekek, praising God for the milestone, and another blessing, praising God for freeing the imprisoned. Esther, who is reportedly undergoing chemotherapy for cancer, is seeking medical treatment now in Israel. But the couple reportedly plans to permanently immigrate there. There he goes. But of course, finally in the country, Jonathan Pollard landed tonight in Israel. Read a headline in the Israel newspaper Hayom showing a picture of Pollard and his wife wearing masks as they arrived from Newark, New Jersey. Do you think he wore his mask when he kissed the tarmac? Or did he take the mask off? Dun, 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 dun. Hail to the chief.
Speaking of escaping to Israel, did you see the link I just dropped in there? Now, this is not a new story. It's something that's been going on for quite a while, but the story broke finally in America early 2020, how Jewish American pedophiles, once they're convicted of like child molestation, they claim their right of return, and they escape to Israel. And Israel just lets this happen, and the U.S. State Department lets this happen. Poor kids. No justice for those kids who were, for life, ruined for life. No justice for them. But the important thing is that we keep good relationships with our most important ally who sells our military secrets to our enemies.
Yep. Jonathan J. Pollard, born in Galveston, Texas, 1954, to a Jewish family, the youngest of 3 children born to Morris and Molly Pollard.
Oh, I like the one guy, one of the guys under BB right now. I remember him talking about the settlement camps and, the occupation, and saying, we have to reclaim the land, or we are reclaiming the sacred land of our parents. This dude's parents are from California. His parents were born in California. Oh man, what was her name? Helen, the Lebanese reporter who always asked the tough questions. Helen, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. The creepy one.
Oh, I can't remember. She was short and always asked really tough questions and made presidents feel uncomfortable. But I'll never forget that one time when somebody asked her about the situation in Israel, and she's like, "Well, why don't they just go back to where they came from?" And they were like, "What do you mean? Israel is the Jews' homeland." She's like, "No, these people are from Poland and New York, and there wasn't as much like Jews and Arabs lived side by side for centuries in mostly in peace until the concentration camps in 1948 until the mid 50s that were suppressed. The UN Human Rights Watch made a report about it and then suppressed it until the 1980s, and still nobody ever talks about that. Can you imagine that, by the way? Imagine you just got out of a Nazi concentration camp. You have got a tattoo on your arm for life. And then you decide, what should I do with my life now? Hey, why don't I go to a country that I've never been to and take the indigenous people there, steal all their stuff, put them behind chicken wire, and force them into labor? How does that work? How do you go from being in a concentration camp to going, hey, maybe I should make my own concentration camp?
Yeah. When you figure that out, there, let me know.
And for anybody listening, if you don't know, if you're wondering if I'm anti-Semitic, well, I am Semitic, and self-deprecation is one of our most admirable qualities. So yeah, maybe a little bit.
No, you're just telling the truth. I remember who her name is. Helen Thomas is you talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, she just, I saw that and I said, oh, she's done. That was back in 2010. I remember when she said that. I said, she was like, what in the world? And
for decades, she was always in the front seat whenever there was a White House press briefing, and it didn't matter what president it was, right or left, right or wrong. She always asked the hardest, toughest, and most uncomfortable questions that the president didn't want to deal with it. And for that, I salute her. God bless her soul, R.I.P. and all that. But yeah, she was a real firebrand, I gotta say.
Yeah, she had her little thing. She died at 92 on July 20th, 2013, as I understand. So she's only 3 years after she made her statement. And what's amazing is I remember looking this up. The Anti-Defamation League. Helen did an apology. She says, I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm just talking about, I expressed my opinion. Here's what the Anti-Defamation League said. Abraham Foxman, national director, issued the following statement after getting the apology from Ms. Helen Thomas. Quote, Helen Thomas's statement of regret does not go far enough. Her remarks were outrageous, offensive, and inappropriate, especially since she uttered them on a day the White House had set aside to celebrate the extraordinary accomplishments of American Jews during Jewish American Heritage Month. Her suggestion, now this is again a suggestion, her suggestion that Israelis should go back to Poland and Germany is bigoted and shows a profound ignorance of history. Oh, okay, Mr. Foxman, where the hell did you come from?
Right, yeah. Where did you get that blonde hair? Where did you get that blonde hair, Brooklyn Jews? Because you didn't get it from the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with the diaspora. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you mix. But like, if I left my house for 6,000 years and then somebody else moved in and had been living there for the past 6,000 years, I don't think I have a right anymore to just like, pull a gun on them and say, get out, it's my house again now, Oh, by the way, before I forget, there's a documentary you must see. It's called Defamation. It is made by a Hebrew filmmaker. And yes, he refers to himself as a Hebrew filmmaker, not Israeli, not Jewish. He's from Israel and he is a Jew, but he calls himself a Hebrew filmmaker. And he got unprecedented access to Abe Foxman and the ADL. And because they assumed he was going to do a puff piece. It wasn't a puff piece. It's a very funny, very enlightening, very incisive documentary. And it also really shows you how, I don't blame Israeli Zionists. They are programmed, like from birth practically, to believe the world is out to get you and we have to get them first. The Palestinians are going to kill you if we don't kill them all. That's the programming that they receive, and then they're sent to the Holocaust museums. Like every year they do these trips, and it's a really enlightening documentary. It's just called Defamation. Last I checked, you could even see it free on YouTube. But, when it's something like that, I always recommend people, hey, at least rent it from something that's not Amazon. Bezos has got too much money. Find some alternative platform or buy a used copy or buy a new copy from the guy who made it. But go see the documentary Defamation. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's incisive, dramatic, really, really great stuff. He really pulled one over on Foxman. Foxman thought like, oh, we got this Israeli Jew over here wants to make a documentary about the ADL. Well, this is great. I'm gonna let him see how the sausage is made. Well, unfortunately, parts of the sausage grinding machine that Foxman didn't want shown ended up in the dock. So yeah, highly, highly encourage that.
Well, cool. Yeah, what's funny is I bring Pollard up because there was this little animated cartoon this guy made. I had to laugh. It was too funny. I can't show the clip because I will be who knows how many. First it drops a couple F-bombs, so that's how it makes it out of it. But here we have Jonathan Pollard with his beard and clearly his face did a good job. He's having a discussion with Pol Pot, the Cambodian mass murderer. It is funny. I got to tell you, because Pol Pot is saying, "You criminal, you come back here." He says, "Yeah, because I got to take you into take you to task. You don't have enough ability." Pollard is telling Pol Pot to advertise this correctly. He says, "What do you mean? I kill people. I kill millions of people." And he says, "No, you don't understand. It's not about killing people. It's about making people selling your brand." He says, "Well, I put him in trance. He takes his gun out. He says, I shoot him in the head. That's how I kill him. I kill millions." He says, "No, you didn't gather the shoes. You didn't pile the shoes all up. And you didn't make soap out of the people." And Pol Pot said, "That's crazy. Why would I make soap out of the people? I hate those people. I don't make soap out of the people."
That's terrible. That's terrible. And you're a terrible person, Dr. True. I love you, man, but you're a terrible person, okay? And I'm laughing, so I'm a terrible person too. But I just wanted you to know that's hilarious and we're terrible people, okay?
Well, what's funny is the look on Pol Pot's this character's face. He looks at him like, "You're crazy. Why did I make things? Why did I mix soap? I don't want to watch up with people I hate and I kill." He says, "Exactly. It's not a." He goes, "Don't you understand? It's about branding. It's about making people think you did." On the way Pol Pot, you crazy people. You go, don't. I pick him in the jungle. I put him in a trench. I kill him. It's done. Oh, good Lord. There's all sorts of craziness in the world for sure. And if you either laugh about, again, is it anti-Semitical to laugh a little bit at Bernie Sanders and his mittens? I mean,
the heaviest things in the world, the heaviest subjects in the world are the ones most in need of being made light of, right?
I think so.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if something's too heavy, make light of it. Like, the Irish and the Jews definitely have that in common. African Americans, too. What do they all have in common? They were oppressed, and they have great sense of humor. That's often a black sense of humor, because that's how you deal with when everything goes wrong. You make really dark jokes. But like Stalin said, dark humor is like food. Not everyone gets it.
Good point on that one. And going back, and I did pull up that piece of legislation. That's going to be. I'm not sure if it's introduced today or Monday or maybe Tuesday. The domestic terrorist bill. I've read enough about what Stalin and Lenin did, Stalin especially, to label anybody as against the state is really the same thing as domestic terrorism. It's right out of Stalin's playbook. You make it seem, first of all, there's this insurrection, right? This terrible thing. And that was the focus of the inauguration. Oh, we don't have anybody here. We have all these troops and all this razor wire because of these crazy right-wing extremists that came in and wanted to hang Mike Pence, right? Well, no, there's tons of evidence to show this was Antifa and BLM masquerading as Trumpites. The Trump people, there was millions of them there. They were very peaceful and very respectful. There was none of that. But they sure painted out to be that. So we have to have this domestic terrorism bill to keep people from doing crazy things like storming the Capitol. And that's exactly what Stalin did. I mean, same thing. Have these false flag insurrections, and so he says, for the good of all people, we're going to declare the enemies of the state and have our Cheka, our secret police, come in. You just will go away. Tell me that's. I mean, could that happen in America? Well, hey, nobody ever dreamed that would happen in Russia either, but it did. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn documents the Gulag Archipelago. These people just disappeared. It's
AOC, Katie Couric, Bill Maher. There's a whole list of people who have literally said that conservatives have to be reprogrammed now. And the AOC wants to fund re-education centers for white supremacists. But my problem with white supremacists and extremists and Nazi is, like, there's so many groups that get called white supremacists, like the Proud Boys, for instance, and Patriot Prayer. It's like, if they're white supremacists, how come they got so many minority members? How come many of their chapters are led by Asians or Hispanics or black guys? Like, the KKK is a white supremacist organization. Would they ever have a Mexican lead their chapter? No. Would they ever have, like, the Chappelle skit with Clayton Bigsby was hilarious, but the reason why it was hilarious is because there's no such thing as a black white supremacist or a Latino white supremacist, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, they are demeaning the words as well. In fact, I've seen people who are children and grandchildren of survivors and people who died in the Holocaust saying, "Hey guys, can we please stop calling everybody you disagree with a Nazi? Because there were Nazis and that was a real thing. And, just because you don't like somebody's politics, it's not fair to call them a Nazi, and it's demeaning to the memory of the victims of like the actual Nazis, the ones that did the medical experimentation and the, you know what I mean? Like a horrible, horrible treatment and mass roundups. No, let's call people who are actual neo-Nazis and actual white supremacists. And, some people might be racist or bigots too. But they're still not Nazis. Like there's levels. And some people, however, the SPLC, that group headed by the alleged sex offender, who spent years harassing his own minority staff while making millions. I forgot where I was going with that. But anyways, yeah, the SPLC and all these guys, Abe Foxman, it's a money-making scheme. You realize they need hate, right? They want hate to continue because if bigotry and hate ended overnight, then they wouldn't be raking in millions of dollars each year. So they have to keep moving the goalposts on what hate is, what hate speech is, what a Nazi is, what a racist is, and it's the line keeps getting blurrier and blurrier.
Yep, and again, mind control program. I'd like to just get a few minutes left on the show, and I want to just kind of refocus, if we could, Phil, to go. I see that Mr. Rowe posted that he did a show on Dr. Giordano. I want to just kind of go back to that because I think I call him Dr. Death. He has the same hairstylist as Klaus Schwab. Have you noticed that? What is this? What is this guy all about? What's your take on that, Mr. Rowe? You would like chiming in? Well, guess maybe he's not available. See, Mr. Rowe posted.
It's pretty culty. I would say that much. You remember when Kim Jong? I can't remember if it was Kim Jong Il or Kim Jong Un, and they made it a law where we must all get the same haircut as glorious leader in accordance with the socialist lifestyle. Or like Burdock has brought up a few times.
Sorry, I was just in the other. Yeah, Dr. James Giordano. He is part of the Homeland Defense and Security group. He's like a professor in neurology, biochemistry, chief of neuroethics, which is kind of interesting. He usually starts his talks by saying, by the end of my talk, you're going to crap your pants. But yeah. He's kind of, a scary guy. He doesn't pull any punches, but there's plenty of material that he's put out there. Some of his talks have been that he's given to like the naval colleges and things have been put out on the internet. So yeah, I think he appears to pretty much be neutral, for a guy that's in. His approach is, look, this is where we're at. There's people, if we don't study it, if we don't go into this stuff, other people will. And one of his talks, he does talk about how, mind control is everywhere nowadays. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that. But it's looking at the connections of the Jesuit order and the going back to the Fulbright scholarships. in his he's got an incredible resume, but as you really dissect it, you see, and let me quote: a Fulbright scholar, Dr. Giordano was awarded the J.W. Fulbright Visiting Professorship at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, Germany, and currently sits as Distinguished Visiting Professor of Biotechnology, Health Promotions, and Ethics at the Coburg University of Applied Sciences in Coburg, Germany. Now, he was previously an international fellow at the Center for Neuroethics at Oxford, UK. Now, here's my point. I've talked quite a bit with Dr. Catherine Horden about Herr Klaus Schwab and his connections to the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, as well as the Freiburg. It's a major enclave in Germany of the Jesuits, major. And of course, Klaus Schwab is a Jesuit as well. He makes no mistake. I have so many pictures of him and the Pope Francis. Even when Francis was young, man, it was like these guys are joined at the hip. And so here we see the connection with Giordano to the same group. And let me just again emphasize, folks, if you don't know about something called the Frankfurt School at the University of Freiburg in Germany, you better get wise to it real quick. The Freiburg School, I mean, that's really where all of this socialism and outright
and the round table groups. Yep.
My point of this, I guess, is he's doing this, spearheading all this research, again, with DARPA, the very Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency that became so blatant during the years of President Eisenhower. And I submit that's exactly who Eisenhower was focusing on when he said, beware the military-industrialist complex. Again, why did he issue that? I submit that it's probably because of the Jesuits that really want to destroy this republic. They have an agenda. There is no doubt about it. Now, listening to all of this rattlescape brain and all this technology, why would they have this technology, Mr. Rowe, if they weren't applying it to the highest bidder, which in this case is Klaus Schwab, and his literally trillions of dollars at disposal?
They probably are. They human nature is just curious by nature. So I think given unlimited budgets and virtually no oversight, people are just going to continue to go down the mad scientist route. I mean, you could use your imagination. If somebody came to you and said you have a lab where you could do anything you want, you don't have to answer to anybody. It's tempting for some people. Maybe others not. But I think, like he said before, if we don't go down this road and understand how these things work, we'll never be able to defend against them. So that's also an argument.
Well,
I think some of them aren't even evil. They're just dangerously curious, and their curiosity outweighs it clouds their ability to see the ethical and moral implications. Like they're just so curious. They've got to know, and they want to learn. Now, not all of them. Some of them are straight up evil. A lot of those MK Ultra guys were straight up evil, and I think they enjoyed being sadistic. They were as bad as any Dr. Mengele. But some of these folks, I think they're just dangerously curious and not considering the long-term moral, ethical, and human implications. What Marshall McLuhan called the rear window effect. You know how like you can't see through the rear window how things change, how technology and culture changes. We're looking through the rear view mirror. So we only see the world as we've passed it by. We don't see what's going on now or where we're headed. We just see what we just passed.
Yes. And let me just pose this philosophical question. maybe a rhetorical question, something to think about in the next week. Come to your own conclusion. Mr. O, I know you do a fantastic job dissecting these type of issues on your show, and thank you so much for all that you do for that. Honestly, do a fantastic job. Here's the question, a moral and ethical question. Has science, and if you do any type of even nominal research into Giordano and the things he's documenting, the answer just has to be yes. Science has found a way to map the brain to the extent you see that these atheist secular scientists say they want to be the new high priest. They want science to rule, and this is so clear in the inauguration language. We now have science back in the White House. We have science ruling the day. Remember all those statements made in the inauguration? So we have now these atheist, secular scientists who absolutely hate any mention of God. How rational is it to make the declaration that this is the final battle line to completely eliminate anybody even contemplating that God exists, let alone connecting with him? Now think about it. The scriptures are very clear in this to me as I read and dissect the book of Revelation, especially the final chapters. The so-called mark of the beast, the capitulation to the beast, the Antichrist spirit. It's very clear. Either you take the mark and capitulate to this demonic entity, or you have your head chopped off. Remember all those stories and facts, and not stories, about all of these guillotines being manufactured and placed all around the country. This was quite commonplace during the Obama administration. Have these guillotines just kind of rusted away? And it's coming down to that, folks. I think with this domestic terrorist bill, you either reprogrammed if you refuse, or you're incorrigible to the point where your VMAT2 gene is not going to be shut off. It's not going to be diminished. Your little light in your frontal lobe is bright and shining, and you're honoring your God. They're gonna shut that light off by chopping your head off. Otherwise, the Holy Bible is just a myth, and it's not true at all, and there is no God. You see, I had this debate with a local pastor, and he's a brilliant man, absolutely a great, intellectual man. He's a PhD in psychology, but he is so convinced that this COVID-19 is factual, that people are really sick from a novel new virus. And no matter what you try and bring to the table to show and prove, he'll just refuse it and say it's conspiracy theory. I said, then show me a blood work where a novel virus is showing up in the blood. I don't care about a PCR, a real-time RT PCR test. That's bogus. Show me a blood work. I'm surely there's got to be a lab at the University of Utah or someplace that can isolate a pathogen. They can do it, but they're not, because it's not there. And until you can show me that, I have to say it is what it is. His response is simply, why would they do this? Who's going to benefit by having this big hoax? And I said, if you're a pastor and you believe the Bible, it is the adversary. It's the prince of the power of the air. You claim to believe in Jesus, but before he, his last night on earth in the Garden of Gethsemane, he told his apostles, stay with me and watch. Be aware, watch and listen. I have an appointment soon with the prince of this world. I won't be with you much longer. 3 different times. Watch. Be alert. Listen, is Satan real or just a figment of our imagination as well? Here's what my closing statements are to this effect. Simply this. If there is no God, then why do we have in our genome a VMA2, VMAT2 connection to him? If there is no God, then why is there a hotline to him? If there is no President of the United States, why is there not a hotline to him by the Joint Chiefs of Staff? You see what I'm saying? It's not our fault that this VMA2AT2 gene, this God gene, is not utilized. That's our fault. It's not the fault of the Creator. It's not the fault of the people that installed the red hotline to the president's office if it's not used. It's still workable. My point is the very presence and the discovery of the vesicular monoamine T2, the God gene, shows that God is there. The paper I did in 2007, I debated this. I put this out to kind of like a peer review type of structure, and this notable atheist review, I sent it to him on purpose. He responded with his own mocking paper. There is no God, so there is no VMA2 AT2 gene. This God gene is all fictional. Well, that's his only response. It just doesn't exist. What part of these research papers and the declarations of epigenetics haven't you read? It most definitely exists, and it most definitely is activated after a conversion, born-again experience, if you will, where the Son of God touches you. That was a stunning study I reviewed there at University of Utah. And you know what? They couldn't publish it anywhere. Oh, it's religious. No, it isn't. It's scientific, and it proves that there was a creator. But see, it throws away all of evolution. It supports the Bible, so it's got to be religious, and thus the secular world will flat out reject it. And that's a tragedy. Because you see, it's there, it's analyzed, it's documented. With every part of the scientific method, it's proven that yes, when you come to Jesus Christ and humble yourself and let him touch you, a miracle happens. Your genes change. The VMAT2 genome is opened. The hotline is taking calls, folks. And how tragic is it now to have this miscreated, this Satanist, Gates, and his coven leader wife, Melinda, seeking to disrupt and to absolutely turn every human mind as possible in this whole world into a non-believing, soulless robot. Folks, the only weapon that I have is my voice at this point. Is the voice of reason, the voice of logic, the voice, yes, of research and science that's proven and viable. The only way we can overcome this darkness is to realize who our enemy is. You know, this is a deeply spiritual battle. We need to understand, again, how to overcome it. Again, the Bible is very clear. The most powerful weapon against this adversary is simply your voice, your testimony, your witness, which is all I really try to do on this show, is to tell what I know, as little as that is, try and connect the dots, make a picture that's viable, and let the people decide for themselves. Isn't that what it's all about, guys? Philip, thank you so much. Major, yeah, you add so much to this, really do. And Mr. Rowe, every week, inside and out, you're always there doing your work. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Every time I say, "Oh, I'm going to hang back this time." Until next time.
Well, that's a wrap. Until next week, and until I get sent out to the FEMA concentration camp Gulag. Be well, be safe. Keep your powder dry, folks. God bless.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
When the shit hits the fan, some guys run and some guys stick.
Because when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Who's with me?
We move forward starting right now.
We got to go out there and we got to take it, right? Take it. Take it.
Are you ready to go out there and take what's yours?
Yeah.
What you worked hard for?
Yeah. What are we waiting for? Take it. It's yours.
There is no tomorrow.
You all know what you have to do.
We can't have anyone freak out there, okay?
Failure is not an option.
We will do it together.
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. You got a dream, you got to protect it. You want something, go get it. Period.
This is your time. If you put your effort